So now that we've had some practice creating a function definition with a return value, I want to talk about creating a function definition with a Boolean return value. Okay. So I'm not sure if you noticed, but we went over a couple of data types, right? And let me put here, data types are values that can be stored in a variable. And we went over a couple of them. The first one is string. The next one is char. We have int, float, and we also have Boolean. Okay. So what is a string? A string is a set of characters, so like a word. Right? What is a character? A single letter. And what is an int? Let me put this on a new line. An int is a whole number, like 5, 10, -70. A float is a decimal number, so like a fractional number, 5.37, right? 2.18, -0.75. And what is a Boolean? Boolean is true or false. Okay, and so what we're going to be returning now is a Boolean value. Now, yeah, I could say here var store is equal to true, and I could print out store. If I run this program, you can see here it prints out true. Right? I could store 5.67, which is a float, and you'll see here it prints out 5.67. I could store a 5 in there, print it out, prints out the 5. I could do a character, which is like the letter C, and it prints out the C. I can use a set of characters like hello world, and it will print out hello world. Right? But what we want to concentrate on is the Boolean value, true and false. Okay. So what I want to do is create a function that's going to return true if the argument that's passed in is a vowel. So I'm going to pass in a char, a single letter, and if the letter is a vowel, it's going to return true. If it's a consonant, it's going to return false. So an appropriate name for this function definition would be isVowel. Okay, and that's what it's going to do. It's going to take in one letter, so I'm going to say letter as the parameter, and I'm going to say if letter is equal to A, or letter is equal to E, or letter is equal, two equal signs, is equal to I, or letter is equal to A-E-I-O, or letter is equal to U. Okay, so if any of those are true, then I want to return true. Else, if none of those are true, then, if one of those are not true, then I want to return false, because that's how OR works, right? If one of these Boolean expressions is true, then the whole thing is true. If one of them is, if all of them are false, then it is false. So if this letter that's coming in is not a vowel, then and none of those are true, then it's going to return false. But if it is a vowel and at least one of these guys are true, then it's going to return true. Okay, so now down here I could do isVowel, and I could give it a letter like U, and I could run it, and it does nothing. Right? And why is that? It's because we are not doing anything with the return value of isVowel. We run the program. It's going to go through these lines, skip the function definition, go down to line 11. On line 11, it's going to jump up to line 5. Letter is going to be equal to U. It's going to come here to this if statement. This is going to be false, 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 and true. Since at least one of these Boolean expressions is true, the whole thing is true, and it's going to return true. Where does it return to? It returns to where the function was called. It's going to go right back to line 11, and it's going to replace that function call with the return value that we're returning, which is true. So it's going to be like that, right? And because it does that, when I run the program, it does nothing, because we're not doing anything with that return value. So just like in our previous programs, we want to print it. And if I print it, it prints out true. Right? If I change this to be the letter F and I run it, it prints out false. Okay. So more or less the program works. Now, the beauty of this function definition is that it returns a Boolean value. Right? So let me put here, this is a Boolean function definition. And Boolean function definitions are wonderful because they return a Boolean value, and we can use them in an if statement. So I could say if is vowel is true, then I'm going to print out vowel. Right? And else it's not true, I'm going to print out consonant, like that. Okay. So we run our program, ignores all of this, comes to the if statement, and it either prints out vowel or a consonant. So it's going to come here to the if statement. It's going to run up to line 6. It's going to return true. That means this expression gets replaced with true. And it's going to come in here and print out vowel and not do consonant. Right? So if I run this, if I do this and I run it, it's going to print out vowel. If I change this to D or S, it's going to print out consonant. Boolean functions, functions that return a Boolean value are wonderful because we can use them as Boolean expressions inside of our if statement. And now I'm going to have you do that in a couple of different contexts using the challenge exercises.